Here we have 3 7-irons, small, medium, and large. The internet likes to argue about what loft the 7-iron should be, but does it really matter?
Okay, so with this pretty traditional 7-iron, those launch numbers, carry, everything is pretty typically what I would see with my own. That one's slightly better, but pretty similar. So around 185-ish, let's say average carry. 125 feet in the air. Launch is nice, spin is plenty, descending angle is very steep, ball's not going to go anywhere. This is more of a high performance, hollow body, stronger, hotter faced iron, but it is still a 7-iron. Pulled it a tad, but we'll take it. So almost the same height in the air, almost the same landing angle onto the green, but it went 20 yards further. Okay. So this goes further, one might argue. Actually went a little bit higher as well, landed just as steep. Ping G730, power iron, power. That has the power. So the flag is at 233. Are you intrigued? So you just said to me off camera you don't understand how this is possible?
I did say that to you, Matt.
They all do say 7 on them. You can see that, right? The lofts are as follows. This 7-iron, 33 degrees. By modern standards, that's pretty traditional. Iron number 2, Ping I530, that was a 29-degree loft. So for your reference, the 6-iron in my set is only a 30 degrees. So this 7-iron is stronger than my 6-iron. I then configured a 3rd iron, which is this guy. And it's available in a spec called Power Spec. Remember I mentioned power? 26.5. Which is actually stronger than the 5-iron in my set. Now, you may be saying that's stupid. Why don't you just not lie to people and say it's a 7-iron when it's clearly a 5-iron, etc. But when you look at an interesting stat, which is the height of the ball, right? So most people would think, okay, sure, you give me a 7-iron that's a 5-iron loft, that's great, it's going to go far, but it's not going to land on the green. It's not going to be no good. It's not going to be functional. I can't stop it. But when we look at the peak height numbers, the highest flying iron, the strongest lofted club of the group, the lowest lofted, basically the 5-iron of the group, went 134.5 feet in the air. The lowest flying club was the highest lofted club, 124.8 feet. And then obviously right in the middle, 128.9 feet with the I530. And then the angle at which it came into the green was within 1 degree of each other. All 3 of them basically hit the green at almost the exact same pitch. Obviously, the most backspin was on this ball. The least backspin was on this one, the strong lofted. So the stopping power is not exactly the same, meaning if it was a very firm surface like you're playing the US Open, yeah, the 50-degree landing angle is helpful, but the spin's kind of low. But most of us don't play in US Open conditions, so a 50-degree landing angle probably not going anywhere. So on your screen now you will see red is the traditional club, yes, lowest peak height, green, the middle club, and then blue, the highest peak height is the lowest lofted club. So how do 3 irons, you can see the red actually launched the highest, these 2 launched pretty similar. So even with a higher launch angle, how does it end up at a lower peak height? The answer is speed, ball speed. So the variable that makes the most difference in the case of peak height right now is the speed off the face of the ball. So 131 miles an hour with the traditional guy, 141 with the guy in the middle, and 144, just over 144 miles an hour of ball speed. So you literally imagine you take 17 degrees of launch, let's say on average with the 3 of them, or 18, and you fire them all out at that exact angle, but 2 of them are going way faster, they're going to end up higher in the air. That's basically. So the spin rate is enormously different. Yep. Yep, so as I mentioned, this ball here at 6,300 spin, of course, is going to stop quicker. It's more stable in the air, so it's not going to curve as much. It's got more spin on it. So I'm not advocating that this is as accurate, unlikely to be as accurate. It does actually go 30 yards further in the air, which is crazy. Now, of course, it is basically a 5-iron in terms of the loft and the flight, but it is a 7-iron length shaft. So it should be as easy to swing, let's call it, and make contact with as the more blade style 7-iron. But it literally goes 2 full clubs further for me at the same, well, actually at a higher peak height, if anything. The way to think of it more than worrying about what numbers on the club or the loft or anything, it's a club that goes a distance. That's it. That's literally it. It makes, I don't care, not only do I not care about the number on the club, I actually don't even care about the loft. It just doesn't matter. It's a club that carries a distance at the height that you require. That's it. Okay, so a couple more shots with the traditional 7-iron there. So dynamic loft number of 27 or 28 at my speed is actually too high. So I'm kind of showing some extremes, like a really traditional lofted iron, it doesn't fit that many people. It fits the occasional person who really de-lofts the club excessively and doesn't really want all that much forgiveness, I guess, on a thin club like that. The middle ground here would probably be more appropriate for your average person. If you have some speed, you probably want to get the dynamic lofts lower, more like 25 or 26. So it's a touch low, but that's closer to the right number. So ultimately, lofts of these clubs all vary. What really matters is the loft when you strike the ball, dynamic loft. Some people strike the ball like this, face is shut, hands are way ahead. Some people literally strike the ball like this. So I've seen people take a 26-degree 7-iron like I see there and actually put 33 degrees of loft on it at impact. You know what I mean? So really all that matters is offsetting what your delivery does to produce a good number on the dynamic loft so that the launch angle and the spin rate produces enough height and goes the distance that it needs to go. So that shot there was probably a little bit too hot in terms of the spin. The carry was a little on the spicy side. So the next thing you can do, let's say the first set of irons was a little on the weak side for me, a little bit spinny, a little bit too high, even with a kind of a mid-spin ball. This second set here that's stronger in loft, I just hit one with the Pro V1. It's kind of too knuckly. What if I kept this because I liked the flight, the launch, the ball speed, and then I just played a spinnier ball? So this is a Pro V1X. So now you see the spin go up about 500-600 RPMs. Balances the flight out a little bit. It's going to stop quicker on the green, which actually that did. But very similar launch and pretty much the same ball speed. And then there's the last extreme where I would do the opposite of what I just did with the spinnier ball on iron number 2. I'm going back to iron 3, super strong loft, really low spin ball in an AVX here. This would be for the person who literally cannot get the ball to go the correct distance. If they're constantly short, they're always hitting it high and short or soft or spinny. Super strong loft, powerful iron, super low spin ball. .222 in the air. So the question would become, I've essentially moved my set one club stronger. So I'm hitting 7-iron from the place I would normally hit 6-iron, right? So what am I supposed to do with my set? The easiest answer is you just don't carry a 4-iron in my case anymore. The 5-iron of this set is basically the 4-iron of my old set. I need to then bias the set differently in the wedges, so I need to carry 5 to gap wedge instead of 4 to pitching wedge. If I wanted to hit the ball with a shorter shaft that I find easier to strike at a certain yardage, this would be the type of thing I could do. Yes, it is essentially the same thing, but do I have more confidence swinging this 7-iron than I do my own 6-iron? And in my experience, I generally do. I just feel like the club length is probably the biggest variable for people. Obviously, seeing less loft is a little uncomfortable, but the main confidence factor that I see, what really drops off for people, is it's just as the club gets longer. What I'm generally seeing from most people is in transition, this shaft plane is like here, right? The face is either open or closed, who cares? There's different patterns, but people are bringing the club in, generally speaking, a little steep, and if they're not steepening it from the top, they're going to start steepening it right now. So the club will really late steepen in the downswing. So that's a super common pattern. As I said, there's different ways people then bring that to the ball. Some people cut across it, some people get really dumped under. But the reality is that type of extremely common pattern is the reason why people have an easier time hitting a short iron. And as their clubs get longer, their results get worse and worse. The number of times I've heard someone say, yeah, I hit my short irons pretty well. Once I get past like 7 iron, as soon as I hit 6 or 5 iron, I get really uncomfortable. I really can't get the flight I'm looking for. My slice gets worse, my hook gets worse, and then I have I have basically no hope in the woods. I hear that literally every single day. And so if I can give somebody, theoretically, I mean, first of all, give them a lesson if they're willing to have one, but if it's gone past that or they just want to make their life a little easier, if you can give them a shorter club that goes the distance of their old longer club, yeah, I think they would have a better chance of having a functional result at a longer yardage than they currently do. A mini driver and a very strong lofted 7-iron, they're not that dissimilar. I mean, are they a bit of a Band-Aid for non-ideal technique? Yes, they absolutely are. But it's not necessarily something to be ashamed of. Like, I don't know why people feel like it would be shameful for them to play equipment that kind of masks their less than stellar ability to hit a ball. You know what I mean? Like, we are playing a recreational game. I don't know why we all think we should have the ability level and talent level of Scotty Scheffler on the golf course. It just doesn't make sense. So that would be my message to people is like, yeah, obviously it would be great if we all struck the ball within 10 millimeters of center where this iron wouldn't give you too much punishment in terms of mishits. It would be great if we all delivered an amount of shaft lean that makes this 33-degree 7-iron turn into a 26-degree 7-iron at impact. That would be great. It would be great if everyone's shaft plane on the downswing was on the shallower side so that as the club gets longer, their swing doesn't explode and the results don't go to shit. That would be great. And I'm more than willing and often do teach someone some of those things before they're fit so that they don't have to go down the Band-Aid route. Changes and improvement to your technique and your own personal performance, how you swing the club, would be an ideal thing to do. Not everyone has the talent, the skill, the time, the access to good coaching to kind of make that happen. And if that's the case, there really is no shame in at least giving yourself a little bit of help. Number on the club, irrelevant. Loft of the club, irrelevant. All that matters is what distance does it go, how high does it go, and does it serve a purpose for you on the golf course.